there, friends. Welcome to episode 348 of School Librarians United. I'm your host, Amy Herman. This podcast is dedicated to the issues and challenges school librarians face every day. As a school librarian in my 19th year, I knew I wanted a podcast which addressed the nuts and bolts of running a successful library program. I don't claim to have the answers, but I hope that this is a platform to share resources and exchange ideas. Now is a perfect time to mention that all the ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast by myself, my interview guests, and listeners who reach out to the podcast are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. When incorporating research, I always make sure to cite my sources. So whether you are a novice or a veteran school librarian, this podcast has something for you. I welcome you and all listeners to reach out with your feedback and episode suggestions. You can reach me on Facebook, on X, formerly known as Twitter. My handle is at @LMS_United. On Threads and Instagram, you can find me at School Librarians United and on Blue Sky at SLU Podcast, or the email address schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com. If you include your mailing address, I'll be sure to send you a podcast sticker. Before we dive into today's episode, I'm excited to share this opportunity from the sponsor of today's episode, TinyCat. Are you looking for a catalog solution on a tiny budget? TinyCat offers a powerful and professional catalog perfect for small libraries, from classrooms and churches to schools and public libraries. The catalog is easy to use and easy to customize to your library's needs. You can import library records or scan books in with the mobile app, track circulation, send reminder emails, and review detailed reports. TinyCat is powered by LibraryThing and has served thousands of libraries over the last 10 years. To double the length of your free trial, sign up at tinycat.org and tell them you heard about TinyCat from the School Librarians United podcast. And now for today's episode, Finding Your Light, and my conversation with Kannan Cangro. Kannan Cangro, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Amy. It's good to be back.
I can't believe we have an opportunity to record so quickly after the last conversation we shared, and I feel like this really is a great opportunity for people to get to know you as a professional. You shared with us a fantastic episode in the month of December, and that episode was episode 346, Elementary STEAM and Computer Science. Friends, links in the show notes. So I highly recommend, especially if you are currently in an elementary school or you are looking to interview for an elementary position. Friends, we are heading right into interview season. And if you are changing or hoping to change grade levels, you go to that playlist and you pull up those grade-specific playlists, the elementary playlist, middle school, high school, and you study up for your interviews. But Kannan is our elementary expert, but she also has some lovely perspectives, which I, as a professional, feel have really helped me in the job I do every day. So I'm hoping you will agree when you get to know her. She's a fantastic leader in our profession. So Kannan, Happy New Year. It's nice to see you. It's so great to see you.
You too.
So for listeners who have not heard your December episode, Elementary STEAM and Computer Science, introduce yourself, tell us about your library, the grades you serve, and what your daily schedule looks like, because we're going to learn all about it today.
Sure. So my name is Kannan Cangro. I am an elementary librarian in Northern Virginia, about 20 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. I have 560 students. I am a solo show. I do not have an assistant. Any assistance that I have is strictly voluntary. So it's just me and my library. This is my 8th year in my library. This is not my 8th year at my school. This is my 15th year at my school. So I have been at my school for a while. Before I was a librarian, I was an art teacher at my school. So elementary librarian, I've always been a specialist and I've always seen the whole school. So that's what I know. My school is a little bit unique. We are pretty much inclusion. We don't have any self-contained classes. So we have pull-out for students with disabilities, but we don't have any self-contained classes. And The unique thing about my school is we have foreign language in the elementary school, and our language is Mandarin. So all of our students learn Mandarin as a special at my school. The other great thing is I'm in Virginia, and in Virginia state legislature, we do require a certified school librarian in every single school. And I work in a very large district, and there's about 250 librarians in my district. However, it's still just me at my school. So, yeah.
And this is where I have to just throw in if you can pick up and move, for gosh sakes, do and strongly consider. That's one of the reasons why I like we can search by state. You can do a Control F search on the spreadsheet for which state you're interested in moving to, because I'm going to tell you, hands down, moving to Virginia would be an excellent decision to make, because the legislative advantage of having this is it's in law. You have to have a school librarian in every public school. I think we agree is a public school mandate. And I haven't necessarily found that across the board. I know it definitely is not the case here in my home state of Michigan. And it's not unusual for the person who is working in this space to be somewhere in their role as an educator or a para. Oftentimes it's considered a para position. If you have a chance to look at the Virginia episodes, especially the ones that we're doing recently, because I've gotten a chance to meet and work with these people, love the idea of moving to Virginia especially if you want to become a successful school librarian like Kannan. Kannan, would you give us some context for today's conversation? Finding your light. What was your inspiration? Because, was this just you were driving to school one day and it popped in your head? Or,
I presented about this topic at our state conference in 2023. Some backstory. If I could have renamed it, I would call it Finding Your Light or Refinding Your Light, because sometimes we're in the professional while. And for me, it was refinding the light. So a quick backstory. I became a librarian in March of 2018, middle of the school year. I switched position, which was really fun. No, it was not fun. Do not recommend. But yes, recommend, because if you want to be the librarian and there's the position, go do it. So I did it. And then 2019, 2020 was my first year as a school librarian, my first full school year. And then in the 2020, 2021 school year, in March 13th, 2021, I set up a book fair. I set up a full book fair. And the next day, the governor closed the schools. So that's how, that's the pandemic. We all got shut down. We went virtual. During that time, I was, first we were virtual, things like that. And then I got pregnant with my daughter. So that happened. My daughter was born in April of 2021. And I had always told myself, when the universe gave me this thing that my husband and I wanted so badly, when this child came into my life, I was going to take the time off. So I took a year of leave of absence from school. So I was gone from my library from April 2021 till, I guess that would be September of 2022. So I did not come back until the 2022-2023 school year. Now, at this point, you would think I would know, I'd be just back in the scheme of things, right? I was so lost. I had a moment where I was in the car, in the parking lot after school, literally crying. What did I do? Why am I librarian? I don't know what I'm doing. This is not fun. These kids are bad. And then, the kids weren't bad. The kids are kids, right? But, I just was having a really hard time. And I made a decision that day where I was you can change this. I can change this for myself, and how am I going to do it? And so I spent that year just working on it, just adding the fun back into my job wherever I could, whenever I could, with whomever I could. If there was someone willing to work with me, I was let's do it. And so that's kind of my backstory. That being said, I presented on this in fall of 2023. It is now the beginning of 2026. And I now experience this in the winter of 2025, where I think I texted you, Amy, where I was oh my gosh, talk me off a cliff. I'm going to walk home, right? I'm going home right now. I've had the worst day ever. I just want to leave. And and then I spent December of 2025 going, nope, we're not going to do this. Let's pull back. Let's add the fun, right? Let's bring this all back, add the fun. And we need to go find that light again. And so now I'm back in the scheme of like adding a whole bunch of fun in my work life. It's a roller coaster, but it's such a good time.
Tell you a couple things I want to throw in there. All right, you and I share this in common. I did also take a child rearing leave of absence. And friends, explore what your district makes available to you and what is possible. So when our daughter was born in August, I was still a classroom teacher at this point. Secondary social studies, I taught high school social studies. So if you can imagine walking into the social studies team and giving one poor soul all the electives, that was my job. So there was no light. There was just a lot of dark. But the only good thing about this job was that I made a friend who was my ally, my quiet, secret ally in surviving this job, which was teaching all the electives in the social studies department, which meant I taught like 5 classes and 4 of them were different. I had 4 preps a semester. Guess who my ally was? Carla the librarian. Carla the librarian, God love her. I went to her and she must have seen me falling apart. And she said, I won't tell a soul that you are struggling, but I am going to be here for you. You come to me, you tell me what we need to do, and I'm going to help you. And at some point within the next year of our friendship, I did go to her and say, I need to go back to graduate school. How do I do what you do? I love the idea of what you do. I don't want to take your job, but I do want to do it. And that's when I learned about library school. Anyway, but I did take a child rearing leave of absence. And in my school's district, the policy was, we will guarantee you a job, but we cannot guarantee where it will be.
Oh, that's interesting. And in our district, you can take 1 year leave of absence and you're guaranteed your position back at your school.
Nice.
And if you take a second year leave of absence, you are guaranteed a position, but not necessarily at your school.
Right.
After that, you're on your own, kid. Like,
right.
Good luck.
Well, and obviously you lose your seniority. You don't have health insurance. I mean, did you? I didn't have health insurance in that time.
They do allow us to buy it with like COBRA rates. So you can buy the market rate. You're not paid. Definitely not paid.
No.
The other nice thing about Virginia retirement, so you would lose like your years of state retirement, but Virginia allows you to buy it back. So I bought my year. So I spent the money to buy my year. So I'm not like pushed off my retirement for a year. I still was able to do that. But I know people need to take leave for various reasons: mental health, aging parents, their own health reasons. And so if you have to take an extended leave, like hopefully this podcast episode will help you find your light. And if you're a new librarian, hey, let's find it together, y'all, because I learned some great things from new librarians. They have such nice perspectives. So, yeah.
You said something, adding the fun back into your job. And I really like thinking about that, friends. I want you to think about what can you actively do to put the fun back into your job. And I realize, and we're going to talk about some of this, but there are some things that, that locus of control that we cannot change. There are some things about our job we cannot change. Likely the start time and the end time of our jobs. Likely how close it is to your home. Can't change the fact that your vacation schedules are oftentimes dictated by a contract for which you have very little to contribute in terms of say. But putting that fun back into our jobs is something that we have some ability to control. We do have some ability. And we're going to talk about some of this because some of it does take time. It absolutely, this isn't something that happens overnight. Kannan, I know, is going to share with us some ideas, but I know that at least for me, I am having the best time of my life. But I'm not going to lie. I'm in year 5 of a job I started in 2021. And I started in the fall of 2021, and it was a rough go. Like, it was definitely a rough go. And so no, when I think about the things I'm now actively doing to put that fun into my job, I love the topic of today's conversation.
And I think the other thing is the fun doesn't have to be big, right? We always think like big things, like hopefully we'll talk about it, but there's a lot of little ways to just add joy into the day. And there's a lot of permission that we have as librarians to kind of add that into places where, as a classroom teacher, I know doesn't always get to do it, right? So I think that's the other thing is I'll share things that are fun for me, but if they're not fun for you, don't do them. Like, do the things that are fun for you.
Well, and we don't have a team. We don't have colleagues. So we are not nearly as tied to a curriculum. We're not nearly as tied to those common assessments. I know for a lot of my teachers that the bane of their existence is this fact that they are sticking to a path that is consistent across the teachers that are teaching that subject, which means there's not a great deal of latitude when it comes to your personal strengths, interests, and, how much emphasis you plan to put on a topic. That was common assessments. It was never a thing when I was in the classroom. I would have left the career a lot sooner than I did. But I think that we have a lot of latitude when it comes to what we do with our jobs because there isn't another one of us in the building. Your colleagues who have 2 librarians in a building, I think we're going to also talk about that too. It really allows you to sort of divide and conquer.
There are some amazing secondary schools in our district where there's like 4 librarians in one building or one school. What an amazing way, but also like sometimes being a solo show, it's kind of fun. Like you just try things and if they don't work, you don't do them again. And there's, and if they work, you try them and you tweak them and you do what you need to do. Definitely like a perk of being a librarian.
My mistakes go basically unnoticed because my colleague is a retired math teacher and is not going to look at anything I do and say, wow, you really effed that up. I absolutely, it is very freeing if you are a solo because you're accountable to no one. And really, if something doesn't go perfectly, it actually is not a problem because first of all, as long as the kids are safe, let's just, as long as the kids are safe, it's a good day. All right. So throughout this presentation, we talk about the different roles that we serve in our school community. It reminds me about how we often talk about the hats that we wear as librarians. I might be reading way into this title, Finding Your Light, but it gives me the sense that school librarians may not always revel in every aspect of what we do every day. That is to say, finding our light is celebrating that which brings out our true gifts and our talents as library professionals.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our things we don't like, right? We all, like, as one of the things I told one of my volunteers yesterday is like, I don't love shelving. Sometimes I do. If all I could do was like put in my AirPods and shelve and listen to my audiobooks, like how lovely. But I have to do these other things called like teaching and collaborating and being instructional partners and running a program all by myself. So, there are things where we don't love them, but hopefully I'll be able to talk about like in our 5 roles as a librarian, how I found my fun. And hopefully other people will find their fun there. I know some things are not always lovely, right? But also I believe strongly in triage, right? I believe in triage, like what has to give, like right now, right? Like right now I have a whole cart full of books. Like right now, one of my volunteers didn't come today. She's not coming for the foreseeable future. I have a whole cart of books. Was that my priority for today? It was not. You know what's great about a cart of books? Books don't spoil. Nothing's going to happen to them. I'll get to them tomorrow. And that will be fine. So that's my triage. I have a whole bin of book repair. I don't have time to get to that right now. We are going to do that. But like first and foremost, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher first. I'm a teacher. Yes, I'm a librarian, but I'm a teacher. So I always try to put the teaching first. My planning to teach, that's first. My instruction is first. So if I have to put aside the book repair and the ordering of the books and the shelving of the books so I am prepared to teach tomorrow, that is what I did. And tomorrow I have 6 different classes, I have 2 collaborative lessons, and I have 2 checkouts. And that's my priority for tomorrow, not those books on the shelf. Because let's be honest, they want Dogman, they'll go to the rolling cart and go get Doug, man. It'll be fine.
I remember talking to somebody and they're like, well, I didn't finish shelving the books. And I said, oh, there will always be books to shelve. Just walk away. And also freeing that when you work as a solo librarian, you can look at your space and go, it looks like a tornado hit this space, but I'm going home now because it's time to go home. Now, honest to goodness, if you think for 1 minute that your colleagues, that your teachers, classroom teachers are walking into your space going, wow, it looks like a tornado hit this place, they absolutely are not. They have no idea what they're looking at. They're looking at a space and they might even, I've said this before, they might see you have a nice bulletin board. I remember doing a bulletin board and I got so many comments on bulletin boards. I had spent $3,000 on books. Did anybody mention how pretty the new books looked? Nobody mentioned the pretty books, but I spent 10 minutes putting up a new poster and a couple bulletin boards, and everyone's like, oh, it looks so pretty in here. I was like, oh, anyway. But remember, we are our worst critics. We really are.
I'm a teacher, first and foremost. So I'm going to give you a few things that worked for me and that work for me. So the first thing is I believe strongly in an electronic plan book. We teach the same thing every year. It changes year to year, but I do not recreate the wheel. Copy, paste. So I have an electronic plan book. I like planbook.com. You do not have to do planbook.com. This is an unpaid sponsorship for planbook.com. But what I like about planbook.com is you can literally copy your units from year to year. It's very easy to push a lesson to a next week to extend a lesson. Can you do that in Google Docs? Yes. But is it worth my $30 to save a whole bunch of time to not set up the Google Docs? Yes, please take my money. Go ahead. Right. So I'm also a firm believer in spending my money where it saves me time, because where I don't have infinite time. I don't have infinite money either. But if it's a small amount of money to save me a whole bunch of time, I will do it. So I definitely do an electronic plan book. The other thing, my big thing, is I learn these kids' names. Now, I know in secondary, this is a whole different beast, right? So in secondary, maybe you learn your regulars, right? You try to learn your regulars. But in elementary, I have a fixed schedule, K4, and then I see my 5th and 6th graders every week for checkout. I learn their names like my life depends on it. If I see them from the back of the head, I know who that kid is. And the reason for that is, one, that's a relationship right there. If I know your name, that's my relationship with you. I pride myself on it to a point. I tell these kids, I will learn your names quicker than any specialist in this building. Literally, I do this to them. And it is a game. And as I get older, it's getting harder. It is getting harder. But I will spend my first 6 weeks of school just learning these kids' names, my kindergartners. When I came back from COVID, I had to learn the kindergartners, the first graders, all the new kids. I had to remember the kids I only ever saw online. I mean, it was really challenging, but spend the time. Whether you have 800 kids, 900 kids, 500 kids, pick a class. Be like, okay, this week I'm going to get this class down. I'm going to learn their names. And you have so much power in a name. To know a student's name is just a step to now they get to know the kid, right? And I feel really seen. If I've met you before and you know my name, wow, look, we've made a connection. You know who I am. If you don't know my name and I've met you before, well, that's kind of weird, right? So that's one thing, is really try to learn their names. Whatever will work for you. Is it a mnemonic? Is it a descriptor? Do you need to take their picture on your iPhone and add a note? Whatever you need to do. I have also taken a picture of a whole class and then after school gone to the kindergarten teacher and be like, okay, who's this picture? Who's this? In our Destiny, we have student pictures. I know not everybody does in Destiny. If you have it, print it, right? Put it on your seating chart. So I do that. We all know how to teach. Most of us, when we're new librarians, most new librarians have taught before. Now, some of you have not. That's okay. But you know how to teach, right? So teach what you know. You're very comfortable reading a book and asking questions. Start there, right? Okay, I'm going to read this year's state choice nominees. You got 4 weeks right there. Let's start there, right? pick a lesson that's easy for you in those weeks that you're trying to learn these kids. All right, I'm going to take 4 books of these 4 state nominees. We're going to read the book, and then we're going to decide if we like the book, don't like the book, and we'll write like a little blurb. Great. Now you have time to learn their names because when you pass out the worksheets, you'll be like, hey, Johnny, which one's Johnny, right? So there's one. But like, you know how to teach. So just teach. And then I co-plan. And you're going to be like, well, how do you co-plan? You're all by yourself. I have other friends in the district and we Zoom. We meet over coffee. We meet at Barnes & Noble and we will plan together. I did it a lot more before. I don't do it as much now, but I plan. If you're a new librarian, see if there's another new librarian who wants to plan with you, right? Ask an experienced librarian, hey, what are you teaching next quarter, next month, next week, right? That's the other thing is like a week at a time. Don't try to like plan out a whole quarter in the beginning because that's really hard. It's really hard. So a week at a time, right? So if you do a week in elementary, I have 7 grades. I've got to teach this many classes. Luckily, our lessons repeat, right? And then you could do it again. If you do an author study, that could take a couple of weeks. You do the state nominees, that could take a few weeks, right? So take your time and like plan a little unit, right? The other thing is when you do something like that where the lesson repeats, it's a routine. Kids do very well with routines. All kids, pre-K 12, are routine. You can teach them how to walk into the library. How are we going to behave in the library? If you're doing something similar, like, okay, we're going to read this book, and then when we're done, you are going to check out and you're going to fill out this worksheet on whether you liked the book or not. Great. You do that 4 weeks in a row, you've now built a routine, right? You could do it 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a lot for like books, but whatever you need, right? If you see them every other week, maybe you do want to do a little bit longer. It's up to you. But just build that routine, I think. And when you know their names, I call them out. Like I'll be like, hey, how do we come in the library, Johnny? Show me again. Show me again, right? If you don't know their name, you can't be like, hey, you with the red shirt, right? So you have to know their name. Also, there's like a lot of, librarians, we share everything. We share everything. We share our resources. This one I keep tight, you guys, and I don't share it with my classroom teachers, and that is the app Novel Effect. If you don't know the app Novel Effect, most people do by now. But when I pull out the Novel Effect, that Novel Effect is an app, for those of you who don't know it, another unpaid sponsorship here. It plays background audio to your read aloud. So you have to be reading the book for it to play it. It is not a read aloud. You have to read the book, and it kind of adds atmosphere. But the way I get kids, my most challenging class will be like, does this one have sound effects? Mrs. Cangro, does this one have sound effects? And I keep that for myself. Novel Effect also has activities with some of their books. So that's like another thing if you really need it. But like, do what you love. If you know how to book talk, your lesson could be, hey, I'm going to book talk these 25 books and these kids check out. The other thing is I try to prioritize the checkout. I know a lot of times we want to like teach, but I only have 30 minutes on my fixed kids, my fixed schedule kids. And I like 15 minutes for the lesson, 15 minutes for checkout, at least in the beginning of the year. Then later on, I might give them more. But if I know their names, then now I could be like, oh, hey, Amy, I see you checked out a cookbook again. Are you cooking at home? Whatever it is. But because I've learned your name, now when you come to check out, I can see that you're checking out cookbooks. But if I don't know the difference between 2 kids, I'm not going to learn who they are. So like that's something I just kind of do as a teacher. The other thing is I started to think about what do I love? Like what is something that really made me become a librarian? What do I love? I love books and authors. I love them, right? I love to read. I love authors. I love illustrators, and I think because I used to be an art teacher, I love illustrators. I love an author illustrator. That's like my creme de la creme person there. I was like, oh my God, you create art and you write. You're amazing. So I thought to myself, how am I going to get more authors in this building? I have no money. Like the only money I have is what I earn at our book fair. And I use that to buy books for our collection. So I'm like, how am I going to get more authors? So I had a friend of a friend was like, hey, this independent bookstore brings authors to schools. I called them. I was like, hey, I'm at this school and would you bring an author to our school? And then Okay, I have a very secret thing here that I do with all people. You guys, it's not even a secret. I kill people with kindness. I am so kind to everyone. And my view is kindness comes back to you. It may not come back the way you think it will or the way you want it to. So I call the independent bookstore. They're like, okay, we have this author. We can bring them on whatever day you have to sell the books. Great. Can I buy the author lunch? I say that. Can I buy the author lunch? And who's coming from the bookstore? Can I also buy you lunch? That is my money. I'm spending it. I'm buying them lunch. Guess who remembered me next time they had an author because I bought them lunch? It was them. And guess which bookstore went out of business? And that person now works at a different bookstore and remembered me and called me for an author at the beginning of last school year was that lady because she remembered I love authors. I love to feed authors. And they was like, you don't have to do that. But when do you get to have lunch with an author? Like, hey, let me just sit down and powwow with you, right? Like, you don't get to do that. So I do that. I take advantage. I have a t-shirt that says my school's name loves author visits. And on the back, it's like a big old square. I made it on a Cricut. And I have them sign my shirt. And every time an author comes, I have them sign my shirt. I know librarians that have them sign tote bags, but this is specific to my school. Like, you visited my school, you signed my shirt. I've had parents say they've seen authors at other places and they remember coming to my school. They remember me. So that's the other thing. Like, I make a big old fanfare. We make a sign in the front. I buy them lunch. I take window crayons and I write that my school loves this author on the library door. Is it like extra time? Yes. But like, and I give them a thank you note before they leave. I have it pre-written and I hand it to them. I hand it to the author and I hand it to the bookstore. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for bringing this author. Because they're doing it for free, right? So that's one thing. But if you don't have independent bookstores, spooky middle grade, if you teach elementary or middle school, they talk about spooky middle grade books. They have 3 to 4 authors who will virtually come in and talk to you. And what was really great about that is one of the authors, I was like, hey, would you mind doing a little segment on our new show? I'm like, it's right around Christmas. Would you mind if one of my students interviewed you? It would only take like 5 minutes. She said, yes, thank you, Kim Ventrella. And they did that for my school and my students for free on our new show. So that was like another way. World Read Aloud Day is coming on February 4th, 6th, something like that. One of those. I think it's Kate Messner. Kate Messner has this huge list of like authors and illustrators, and you can sign up. You guys, when that list comes out, I sit there with my schedule for the day, and I like sign up for anybody I can to get a author that day. And that day is just all World Read Aloud authors. They read to your class for 20 minutes. They answer questions. But like, what other way? So that's what I love. I love authors and books. You don't love authors and books. You love scientists. They have like places you can sign up and a scientist will virtually visit your library. So that's like another thing I did. One word of caution, there is a such thing as too many author visits in one year. I was like really kind that year, and I had like 4 or 5 author visits. And at the end, I wasn't sick of it, but my students were like, okay, we're done, right? Like, we're kind of spent. So I would say if you're planning on doing author visits or more than one in a year, do one for like lower grades and one for upper grades. Like, do it kind of that way. That way you're kind of dividing and conquering. But yeah, like the other thing is spooky books aren't just for Halloween. I'll bring that out in March, right? Let's do spooky books in March. And I make that a whole like unit. So in the beginning, we talk about what are questions that you would ask an author, what's appropriate. I have them write it on an index card. I pass it out before the author visit and then they ask. And then afterwards, we like go back and reflect on it. Hey, what did we learn? What did we learn about this? That's 3 weeks of lessons right there from one middle grade author visit. So that's the other thing is don't think you need lots of money. I don't have Dave Pilkey money. I don't have Kwame Alexander money, right? Like these people are not coming to my library. Kudos to you if you got them. If you got a James Ponte to come to your library. Love that for you, but I can't make that happen for me. So we take what we can get.
I will say I did make the rookie mistake once of asking the kids. Somebody had said something about having an author come and visit our school, and I stupidly said, well, who would you like for me to try and get?
We can't afford the people they want.
But, truly, I think that what you're doing is really trying to introduce as many different sources of excitement to your students. I mean, you really have, it takes a certain amount of work, but you've seen the results and what it does to energize your program. And like you said, it has this ripple effect that if you put in a certain amount of consideration and thought to making people feel welcome and invited into your space, as somebody who hosts this activity, those kinds of gestures are not empty. Those kinds of gestures are sincere. And you're going to find that you make an impression on somebody, whether you realize it or not. I will say, I have been teaching a long time. I was introduced to planbook.com because my principal learned about it. I was an elementary librarian, and our principal got every single one of us in the building a subscription. And I actually gave planbook.com as a gift to my sister because she was going to be taking something like probably 4 months. I think it was 4 months. She was taking 4 months off with my nephew. And so what she could do is she could write the lessons in planbook.com. She gave the access code to the person covering her leave. And so she could communicate directly through planbook.com her lessons for her class. And, I got to be honest, friends, the other reason why I liked planbook.com is I'm going to say, for 7 years, I was a traveling librarian, and I traveled every 3 hours. Okay, if your plan book is a physical thing that has to come with you from building to building to building, okay, God help you, because you become very efficient at packing up, because I would have just my lunch and a little bit of my prep to get to my next building. And so, the fact that there was no way I was going to lose my plan book because it was digital. I didn't have to worry about forgetting it at one of my buildings. And when you teach in 4 buildings a year, all of a sudden, where you misplace something becomes really time consuming. So I will throw that in as something that really made a big difference for me, because I never lost my plan book because it was digital.
The other thing is, if you ever need like a copy of your plans for your evaluation or your administration, planbook.com makes it so easy. You're just like download and it's just a PDF and you just share it.
Did you ever attach your standards?
I do. And it has the AASL standards on there, and you can just attach standards, and you can attach like documents. You can attach PowerPoints. You can attach links. It's okay. Y'all, this is just now a podcast about planbook.com.
Oh, and another thing, did you ever hear a report back from your sub? Because the subs love Planbook. Because rather than trying to decipher, especially people who are still leaving handwritten notes, for gosh sakes. But I've had some really great feedback from people who covered my class because I had the plan book printout as my lesson plan, and they were very grateful and said something about it to me when they saw me the next time. Anyway.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. So we digress, but it really,
Yeah.
I think what the message I'm hearing is that there are things that you do not just because you know your students are going to like it, because you realize this is something that is value added. That when you create something and you invest that kind of emotional time into your program, the value added is something that also benefits you as a professional, and you see, you derive joy.
It's fun for me. If it's fun for me, I feel like the passion is sometimes contagious, right? So if you're very excited about something, sometimes it's really easy to get kids excited too about the same thing. This was around the time though where I realized I'm supposed to be a leader in my school, right? And I'm just skating by every day. So one of the things that elementary librarians have to do in my district, I don't know if this is statewide, countrywide, we have to run our live news program. Somehow we are now producers and directors of a live news program every single day, right? So I have my 6th graders, they come every day. When I first started, and I actually have been working on the news show at my school since I was in library school, because this was a good way to get some hours. So I started there, and then our librarian left. Now I'm the librarian. Now I'm in charge. It's a learning curve, right? So people don't always love it. Students aren't always reliable. But I realized I am the voice of the school. I put the media in front of them every single day. I'm the one who does it. So I was like, cool, I'm going to just do what I want with this. And so I started adding fun to our new show, right? One of the things we started was the hot seat. I became the host of the hot seat, and I put on my TV persona, and I would say, welcome to the hot seat. Here in the hot seat we have. And at first we were just introducing staff members, right? And we would do it kind of like a minute to win it. You have 60 seconds to tell us 3 interesting facts about yourself. After 3 interesting facts, tell us as many as you can. The current record is so many minutes, right? And then I had these authors coming to my school, and I would be like, hey, would you do the hot seat? Would you come on our news program and do the hot seat? And they were like, sure, what is it? So now here I am. What a way to promote like a reflection for a school-wide author visit. Put them in the hot seat, put them on the news show. So much so our superintendent was visiting our school. And my principal was like, what should I take her to see? And this and that. And I was like, let's put her on the hot seat. Let's put her on the hot seat. And one of our students did it. It wasn't me interviewing that day. It was one of my students. But she loved it. And that's what she did. She did the hot seat. She walked around a little bit and she left. And I had a very wonderful letter in my mailbox about how I made this visit a lot easier for my principal because the superintendent was coming. So you can imagine, that's kind of something that can come from all that. And so I did that. I started adding things I like. I love trivia. I'm a trivia girl. I love trivia. So I started adding Trivia Thursday to our news show, right? So I would put in a trivia question. All the teachers have to email us in. It's completely optional. They don't have to do it, but they're quite invested. So things like that I started putting on a news show. The other thing I started doing is I made a Book Nook Wednesday. I put in a book talk of something I want to talk about on Wednesdays, Book Nook Wednesday. I just added it. Sometimes I would do it. Sometimes I would take an author thing from YouTube and I'd put it on there. Some book I wanted to promote. If you're going to do this, though, make sure you have more than one copy or have a theme because they're all going to come for the book. So make sure if you're talking about Frog and Toad, you have 12 Frog and Toad books or whatever it is. So otherwise, it's going to go bad. But otherwise, yeah. So I started putting Book Nook on there. So much so, the students loved it so much. I have students now who ask to come on the new show only to be on Book Nook. They're like, can we just be the Book Nook reviewers? Absolutely. I give them a little corner in the library. That's their display. They talk about the books. They put them on display. Great. Book Nook Wednesday, right? So sometimes we have power you don't even realize you have.
It is my understanding that your principal came to you and said, you're going to be doing the news.
I mean, it wasn't even my principal. It was kind of assumed. You're a librarian. You're doing the news.
And forgive me, but it would have been very easy to take this as to resent this, to this imposition that it was just one more thing you now have to do. And oh, by the way, there are some people who would see this as taking away from your primary responsibility of being the librarian and the program that I'm sorry, so many people I know would have seen this as, oh, just one more thing I've got to do. But you know what? You now have the attention of everybody who watches that program, and you can absolutely insert a great deal of promotional, opportunities into whenever you're given that stage, whenever you're given that opportunity to broadcast all the good things that you do in your space. This becomes basically the library show. Oh, and by the way, we're going to talk about the news. They don't have to know that, but you do.
No. I mean, the only thing that they told me, you have to have the Pledge of Allegiance. We have to have a moment of silence. And hey, can you include birthdays, staff birthdays? And then whatever random, announcement comes at us. Great. But I learned so much from it. And I still continue to learn. I've learned video production from it. I've learned editing. These are not skills I would have pursued by any means because of the new show. Also, I know a lot of librarians who are like, oh my God, this is something I have to do in the morning, but all the books come in the morning. All the kids come in the morning. I am apparently I made it look fun enough that I have another teacher at our school who's like, hey, I'll do that with you. And so now there's two of us, which is lovely, right? One of us is in the production room and one of us is not. But if you don't have two people, you can do it. The other thing is I give kids a lot of power. They're the producers, they're the directors. We change roles. We could talk about news shows all day long. That could be a whole nother podcast. But yeah, so if you have just a television, I know there's a lot of libraries that just have like a television that could display things. Start putting up your agenda, you guys. Like, you want to do book talks, put them on there. You want to do trivia, put them on there. Whatever it is, like whatever makes you happy. Finish the lyrics. I love lyrics. I put that up there. Do a visual trivia. Whatever floats your boat, right? Put it up there.
Well, and can I just throw in also, friends, recently we've had guests on the show who have also been in charge of the news, the daily video news. And I will say, if you go back to November, episode 345, Empowering Student Volunteers, Dione Mila in Florida talks about her video production program with her students. And then if you go back, episode 343, Building Media Skills Through Video Production, you have yet another person who has used the opportunity to incorporate video into her lessons. And it really has become something that the kids are far more invested in, because you're tapping a different set of skills and interests for your students.
And the students that I have that come for news show and do news show, they are not my library kids all the time. Some of them are, but I'm getting a whole nother set of group of kids who are interested in this news show production, being a YouTube star, the next best thing. But it's also another really great way to make relationships, especially with my older students who I think it's really tough to make relationships in 5th and 6th grade. I'm getting a little too cool for school, but it's also a great way for me to just kind of like add the fun, right? I think it was one of our news show groups. I was like, hey, December 13th is like in 2 weeks, that's Taylor Swift's birthday. That wasn't this year. It was last year. This year was on Saturday. But one of the kids was like, oh, I wish it was Taylor Swift Day. I was like, well, let's make it Taylor Swift Day. What do we have to do? She's like, well, we should all wear our shirts. I was like, great, unofficial school spirit day. If you like Taylor Swift, you're going to wear your Taylor Swift shirt. All of a sudden, I like Taylor Swift, so I did it. You don't have to do it for Taylor Swift. You like a sports team? Do that. But they all tell each other, right? And all of a sudden, all that day, everyone has on Taylor Swift gear. And the kids will come during checkout and they'll be like, hey, so-and-so told me that December 13th is Taylor Swift Day. Is that true? I was like, do you want it to be? Wear your clothes. Come on in, right? So things like that, it doesn't have to be official. We started this thing called Food Review Friday, and it came out of nowhere. Our district started all these new menu items. And I was like, well, what does that taste like? I don't eat school lunch. I don't know. And they're like, so now I started asking, I was like, who buys school lunch? Who's trying the chicken Parmesan sandwich? Can you write a review? Can you do that? And suddenly, like, this is stuff they're invested on, right? And I tell them it has to be like lunch. We can't food review things, like not like Chipotle. We can't do that. But suddenly, like, we're adding the fact that there's new menu items. Let's be honest, some of our students, that's the food they have. They can't pack a lunch. They're getting free or reduced lunch. What a nice way to highlight the food they're eating every single day, right? This is what we have in our cafeteria. And then one day we had all these new breakfast items. I was like, okay, you guys, I'm going to buy the bagel sandwich. We're trying it. Cut it up into 6 pieces. I was like, the only rule is it has to be positive. Like, if it's bad, we're not reviewing it. We're not reviewing it, guys.
Well, and I will say a very nice positive thing about my state since the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, because so many families are dependent on free and reduced lunch, that basically the state legislature made it possible for all schools to provide all meals to all students, irrespective of, and so there is no stigma. And so what they did.
So great. Let's do food reviews.
It has been continuing since the pandemic. The state legislature has continued to make all breakfasts and lunches free to all students K-12. And I'm so proud of my state because it has made it possible for students to not be hungry. And I'll tell you what, when I onboard new students in my building, this is random, when I onboard new students in my building, I make sure to always mention, by the way, free breakfast and free lunch for all students. And they look at me like, really? And I was like, yes. And by the way, that's across Michigan, all public schools. And so, that is a tremendous help for families. I don't care if you're just busy. If you're just busy and you're like not accustomed to like putting a great deal of thought into your child's, this would have simplified my life. I had 3 kids who go through the public schools, and you better believe putting those lunches together was a great deal of effort. And sometimes it was not fun, and it certainly cost money for sure. Anyway, I throw that out there. Let's talk about how you have infused joy and light into being an instructional partner in your building.
Sure. So it's not easy to make relationships, especially if you're like new in a school, or we're at a point now in Virginia, we have a lot of basals. Like we have a language arts basal and we have a math basal, and it doesn't have wiggle room, right? Like they have to teach the way it is. They have to teach with fidelity. There's no place to do a reader's theater or add something. But there are times where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have these great ideas. Who wants to collaborate? I just start asking everybody, right? They come for checkout. They come drop their kids. The great time to ask is like about a month before like Thanksgiving, a month before winter break, about like a month before an early release day, the end of a grading period. Be like, you have any time? Like, you want to come down to the library? I have some ideas. You just need like one person to say yes. Usually the new teacher. Get the new teacher. Be like, and if you want to help them with something they're learning, their curriculum, be like, hey, I saw you're doing fractions. You want to do fractions together? Here's the part that really got me some instructional partners. I'll be like, I'll grade the work for you. I'll grade it for you, right? I'm not giving the kids the grades, but if we're doing something, I do not mind grading it for them. We're doing something written, I'll grade it for you and I'll give you the grades. What a gift to give a classroom teacher to get grades off of their plate. Now, I don't try to like grade the basal because I don't know how to do that, right? So pick something you're comfortable grading. But if it's like a rubric, you're the one who you can grade it. And so I'll offer to collaborate and I'll find something and I'll find someone. And one year I had a teacher, it was 2 years ago, I had a teacher, she's like, I am done with this math unit, my advanced math kids, I need something. I was like, hey, you want to come and do some Kiva plank challenges? I have Kiva planks. Let's do some challenges. And they came for an hour and we did a few different challenges. I gave them limiters. If you want to know about Kiva plank challenges, go back to that STEAM podcast. But that one teacher then told another teacher, and the other teacher came to me and was like, hey, I heard you can do some Kiva plank challenges. Can you do with my math class? Absolutely. What else would you? So things like that we can get. Sometimes you won't get everyone on board, and that's okay, right? But I just keep trying to do it, or I find some sort of fun respite, right? I'll say, hey, I have this middle grade spooky author visit I'd love to do. Yes, let's do it, right? Let's do it. And sometimes that's all it takes, right? Sometimes they just need a break. And they'll find that place to give you a break. Morning meeting, we're a responsive classroom district. During morning meeting, I'll be like, do you want me to run a morning meeting? I'll run a morning meeting for you. I don't always get to do it, but sometimes I do. Run a morning meeting for them. Run a couple of them for them. Now they trust you and they'll let you into more places. So I will do that and I will offer to grade and things like kind of that sort of thing. And then they start coming to you. I'm a firm believer in not saying no. I always kind of say, sure, but, right? So sometimes you'll get the teacher who's like, can you just pull this cart of books for me for this research project? And I'll say, hey, would you mind coming down and telling me more about that project? I don't have all the books on your list. And then they come down and they talk to me. It was a food truck project they were doing. And suddenly she came to talk to me. We changed the whole PBL, and now I'm somehow collaborating on this PBL for food trucks that they're doing about books, things like that. And so sometimes it's just, I know don't say no. I say yes, except, right? Yes, except I don't have time to pull them. Can you come down? Right? Or I don't have those books, whatever. Whatever you're looking for exactly, I don't have them. How about I pull some like them? Or how about you come and we talk about it? Things like that. Sometimes they don't have that time in the day. I'll just pull the cart, right? And sometimes I may say I can't have it tomorrow, but I'll have it by next week. But that's the kindness thing. They're going to remember you pulled that cart of books for them. And that's what it is. Yeah.
What about being an information specialist? Because this is where we really
So,
can shine, and it's oftentimes a
yeah,
surprise. Like you're like, comes out
right.
clear out
Yeah.
of the
And so
blue.
I know. My big thing is don't do it alone, right? You can't. I always tell kids, like, I'm a librarian. I don't know everything, but I can find anything, right? So I'll find anything for you. You're looking for a book, I'll try to find it. If you're new, like when I came back after COVID, I didn't know my collection that well. I'd only spent a full year and a half in my library. Then I had ordered books kind of blindly, right? We ordered books blindly. The substitute had books and it hadn't been so sometimes I say, okay, I'll find you a book like that. Or can I get back to you next week? And that's when you go to your people. Now, you may say, I have no people. You have people. On Blue Sky, there's people. It's TL Sky. There's a whole bunch of teacher librarians. You'll find people. There's a bunch of Facebook groups with librarians, right? I see all sorts of posts. It's elementary, dear librarian. There's the Future Ready Library. There are so many librarian groups on Facebook. It's one of the few reasons I still have a Facebook is because of the librarian groups. Reach out. I mean, you have a district. Hopefully, you have a district supervisor. If not, you have a state organization. There's a state organization of librarians. I bet you if you go to a conference or two or just reach out, they'll connect you to somebody, right? Because librarians, we're just helpers. It's in our nature. I feel like if you're not a helper, this probably isn't a profession for you, but we're just helpers. It's in our nature. And so I'm always ready to kind of reach out. Okay, this is the age of AI, guys. Use some AI if you need to, right? If you need to, use some AI. Don't trust it all the time. Please use your critical lens and don't trust it all the time. But you can use AI. You can use Gemini. You can use ChatGPT. I actually just used Gemini the other day. I put in all my state nominees for books and I said, hey, can you give me a list of drawing prompts that would go with any of these books? Were they all good? No. Were some of them good? Yes. So I was able to kind of at least narrow some down. And some of them I used my own critical eye. But, don't listen to John Connor just yet, right? Like, be critical. AI doesn't need to be everything, but it can be some things for you. And you can use AI. The other thing I would tell you is if you can save the money and go to a conference, go to a state conference, a local conference, if you can go to a national conference, that's amazing, but that can be overwhelming. I did a year of the conferences. I spent like a lot of money doing a lot of conferences. I went to NCTE, I went to ALA, I went to ASL, I went to my state VASL. I did all of them. The only one I didn't make it to was ISTE because it got canceled because of COVID. But I tried all of them and they all have their perks. And you get an idea of what works for you, but just pick one, right? Like, pick your state conference. If you're able to go to a state conference, do that. You can't go to a conference, try some. There are tons of virtual seminars and webinars out there with publishers, with librarians. They're out there. Some of them are recorded. Try them out. Like, I know School Library Journal does a day of dialogue that's online. They also do a in-person one, but sometimes it's nice to just hear people talk about books for a day. Great. Let's hear about books.
And if I can, just a little self-promotion here, friends, there's more than 25 elementary episodes. So if you've never visited the playlists, there's a link that you can just, bookmark the link that it's linked in every show notes. But the playlist is a way for me to organize content by grade level and by subject matter and, and by theme. And so when I people would say on Facebook, help, I'm a brand new librarian. Okay, so we have a rookie playlist. All right, help, I'm applying for a job. We have a getting a job playlist. It's help, I now have to teach middle school. We have a middle school playlist. We have a high school playlist. Elementary, there's more than 25 episodes in the elementary alone. You check out the show notes and you find amazing resources, not behind a paywall, not teacher pay teacher, because by the way, friends, that is the one thing that I absolutely say no to, and that is putting things behind a paywall. So when my guests are on the show, I said, you're welcome to be on my show, but whatever we share, you are sharing and giving of your own free will. You are not charging the listeners. So that's really key. And so always visit the show notes. But, there is a great deal of resources out there. And, it doesn't have to be a home run every single day. And I think that we look at ourselves, we are our worst critics. We are so harsh, and we look at what we do and we expect every single day to be a home run. And I remember, especially when I was first starting off in that grade level, teaching that grade, I remember looking and saying, you know what? I've got a day full of teaching, and I'm really wowed and excited about 2 of these grades. I'm going to tell you one of those grades, not my best work. Or one of these grades, I know I can do better. And I'm now going to look at the lessons that I'm putting together, and I'm going to pour a lot more of my energy and time into building up a particular aspect of what I teach. Do not expect yourself to be 100% all the time. And, P.S., classroom teachers sure as heck aren't. We are so empowered because we are oftentimes a team of one.
Yeah, I mean, when we're running our program, right? We're deciding the collection, we're doing those things. I know a lot of librarians that spend a lot of time on displays, and I was a former art teacher, so I'm always tempted. I do not. That is my triage right there. I don't spend a lot of time on displays. If it's going to engage a student, great. If it's going to be on Pinterest, I don't need it. I really don't, right? So I need a display that's going to make a book move off the shelf. That's what I need. I need a display that's going to get student attention, and they're going to ask me about it. Great. That's what I need. Sometimes it's as simple as I made a Wednesday display from Wednesday Addams when that took off. I literally just printed out from Canva, what would Wednesday read, with a picture of Wednesday, stuck it on the wall, and just put a bunch of books about bees and witchcraft. I didn't actually have any books on the Addams family, right? They were just books about things with Wednesday Addams. Another place AI can help you if you want to throw that in somewhere, but TV. And I made the display, and guess what? They moved. In fact, one of the girls came in for book character day as Wednesday Addams. Can you take my picture next to this? Absolutely. Let's take your picture, right? Send it to your mom. Great. So displays, this has been my display. Are you ready? We put the books up on top of the shelf, and I took a Post-it and I wrote a 1-sentence blurb on each Post-it. If you like mysteries that also include witches, read this. Post-it. When the kid checks it out, he's like, what do I do with this? I was like, you could trash it. You can keep it. It's fine. And then I put other books up there. That took me a grand total of 10 minutes, right? To just write quick blurbs, but it got them to move. Anything that'll get them to move, that's worth it for me. So if it doesn't engage your students, don't waste your time. You're not trying to be in library displays, award things. We don't need to do that. It's okay. I promise you it's okay. If you can find a display that stays up all year for some of your big places, I have an author wall where I have a whole bunch of author photos. I just leave them up there. They're up there all year long. Great. If there's an author visiting you, add them to the wall before they come. That's my other hot tip there. But yeah, so I do that. The other thing I do, I call them stall stories. This is not an original idea. I got it from another librarian in the district. I have a newsletter that I put in all the adult bathrooms in my building. It's just the adult bathrooms. I don't do it in the student bathrooms. And it's kind of like my communist manifesto. It's kind of like my theses on the cathedral door. It is what I just push stuff, right? I'll do podcast reviews. I will do book reviews. I will, for podcast reviews, I may suggest a particular podcast, right? A particular podcast episode. Or I may talk about self-care in December, something going on in the public library. For Read Across America Week, I put in a whole little blurb about why we don't teach Dr. Seuss anymore. I'll put in diversity in books. How is it? I'll do something for book banning week. I have gotten such good feedback from staff, because guess what? What else are you going to do in the bathroom besides read my thing on the wall, right? There's nothing really there. So, and I don't do it regularly. It's whenever I remember, I'll kind of take it down, I'll put it up. But it's a way to remind your staff you're here, right? Without them coming into the library. A lot of them look forward to it. And it keeps kind of your agenda on the wall, right? And so my admin is like, I love that. And other people have loved it. And I recommend like adult books. I put a Fourth Wing review there before Fourth Wing even took off. And then everyone's like, wow, you recommended that book like a year ago. Yeah, where you been, right? So kind of that thing. So I will do stall stories. If you want to add more content, you can also collaborate with your reading specialist. She's given me like little tips, science of reading tips, kind of things like that, or new to the curriculum. I'll add new books to the collection. I'll be like, new in our library. You know, I might put in like a little visual puzzle. I'll be like, can you guess this from this? Can you guess the title of the book from the pictogram? Come to the library and see if you're right. Right? So things like that. I'll put that in stall stories. Right now, stall stories in the bathroom is there from December. I need to change it. But like I said, I don't do it frequently, but I do it when I remember. The other thing I did was I'm very passionate. I was the kid that went to the paid book fair with $1 that my mother hoped I would get a book because I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I'm a first generation of immigrants. Book fair is something I really struggle with, but I think my community would absolutely revolt if I did not do a paid book fair. So I was talking to a colleague and they're like, I'm going to do this thing called a True Book Fair. And I was like, tell me more. She was like, oh, there's the School Librarian Journal Librarian of the Year, Julie Shiver. She came up with this True Book Fair model. And I sat there and the librarian I was sitting with, she was doing it through Donors Choose and she was writing publishers. I mean, she was doing a lot. But I thought to myself, I would like to do that at my school. But I have a school of some haves, right? Our PTA has some money. We have students who don't have, but we have a PTA that raises a lot of money. So I put it in and I asked for it and they said yes. One year they said yes. And so it's like another way to push my books, right? I'm a book pusher. It's what I do. I push books. I buy every single book at the True Book Fair. So our students who take home 2 books for summer reading, I have picked every single one, just like we do for our collection. And they leave with our books. So that was kind of another way for me to push my books on my term, and I push them. And so I find that like if you can find a way, something you're passionate about and you're willing to put in the work for it, just like add the fun. And if it's good for kids, no one is ever going to say no to you and no one's going to say you're doing something bad, right? So what I would say to any librarian is you've got this. You have it, right? So if you're like me in December and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Find your people, right? There's got to be one person or you can find a person. And in my building, our Mandarin teacher and I work pretty closely together. And I went to her in December and I was like, I'm really struggling. She's like, I'm really struggling with this one class. And I was like, well, tell me about it. And she was saying that they were just unruly and they're really hard to manage. And I said, when do you teach them? And she told me the time. And I was like, I don't teach during that time. Let's do something. And now we have this like whole collaborative lesson we're doing with book buddies and writing books. And it just came from a moment of frustration, right? And from taking my frustration, but also she's like, I'm frustrated. I'm like, oh, how can I help? The other thing is I had the PE teacher. He comes into the library. He does like a study hall of like groups he has to watch. And I just saw them now from September to December, just kind of mucking around, right? And I went to him and I was like, hey, how would you feel about teaching some STEAM during that time? And he was like, well, I don't really know anything. And I was like, well, I do. I know things. I can do it with you. And now suddenly I'm teaching makey-makeys to 6th grade tomorrow, right? But sometimes like it can be just that, the instructional partner. It also, when they're in my library, I feel a little bit of ownership. And so I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's make this better. The PE teacher who's like, I didn't think you'd want to work with me. Why wouldn't I? Sometimes everyone doesn't know what you're willing to do for them. And I think that's the other thing is that, you have your fun. Fun is contagious. It really is. Like, fun is contagious. Add it where you want. I know a librarian in my district who hid like 100 of those little micro ducks all around her library. And if you found it, like, hooray, you found a duck. Cool. If that's fun for you, do it. Whatever it is. like I say, just add it. Add it where you want. Add the fun. There was one week where I just told kids, all right, when you come to drop off the books, you have an assignment. I'm giving you all homework. And they were like, what? Because our classrooms all have like a librarian who brings down the books. I was like, I want to hear the best joke you've got. Best joke you've got all week. Let me tell you, the jokes that I heard that week, does that apply to anything I'm teaching? Is there any instructional? No. But they went home. They were like, okay, Mrs. Cangro, I have a knock-knock joke for you. And this, and that inspired me to put a joke of the week on the new show. So now every Friday we have like a joke of the week, right? Just because I was like, hey, make me laugh. Like, just put this on there. Tell me a good joke, right? So add the fun. Find your joy in little places. Some people love to see student creativity. Have a bookmark contest. You know, what's the prize? I will photocopy your bookmark to share with everybody. Hooray! Like, it can be so simple. My daughter goes to gymnastics, and what they give them at the end of class is a scratch and sniff sticker, which, like, in the 80s, that was like the coolest. I bought some scratch and sniff stickers. You had a great day, kindergartner. Here's a scratch and sniff sticker. Do you want it on your hand or your shirt? Right? And I always tell them, like, please don't put it in the book. Please don't put it in the books. Like, just don't do that. But otherwise, like, great. I'm also someone who strongly believes that just like we don't say no to teachers, I try not to say no to kids. Even if you have out 5 books from last week, take another one. Go ahead, take another one. They don't do us any good on the shelf, you guys. I know. We work so hard for our collections. A lot of us fundraise. A lot of us put in our own money. But if they're not reading them, what's the point? So sometimes they'll say, okay, look, you can take out another book, Amy, but can you leave it in your desk? Can you leave it in your locker, right? So now they're like, okay. And I'm like, and once you show me, you can keep bringing back the book. Great. Now go get you brought back the 5? Great. Once we're getting into like the 10, 15 books category, I'll be like, okay, listen, let's do a trade. I'll save all these books for you for tomorrow. You come back and we'll trade. And usually kids are good with that. But we're trying to break the stigma of the mean shushing librarian, right? We're not those people anymore. And this is a way we get to be cool, right? And so I also I 100% tap into any pop culture thing ever. K-pop Demon Hunters, I'll be like, oh yeah, yes, K-pop Demon Hunters, let's do it. If you like K-pop Demon Hunters, if you don't know anything about what they're talking about, ask a kid. Be like, what's that about, right? Do a Wicked display, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Just put a picture of Wicked and put some books about witches and Wizard of Oz, and you're done. So finding your joy is not difficult. You just have to think about what makes you happy. And sometimes you have to just put yourself out there a little bit. I think in the end, though, you have to ground yourself. Sometimes it's very easy to get just into the tornado of work and your career. And we're here. I mean, we spend more of our lives in our library, right, than we do with our own families. And so you have to remember your why in the end. Like, what are you fully committed to? And for me, it's my family. And the happier that I am all day long is the happier I'll be when I get home. Right? It's the happier person you're going to be. You're going to be the better spouse. You're going to be the better parent. You're going to be the better child, whatever it is. So find your joy. And we work in the best place. We work in a library. Like, people love our job. So let's, just bring back the joy. And that's what I would say is, you've got this. You got this. Taylor Swift talks about the Eras Tour, but we've got the library, so we're good.
Friends, I could not have planned a better way to wrap up my day than to have a great conversation with Kannan and to remember to press record so that we could share it with everybody. Your energy is infectious, and I can't think of a better way to get motivated to really sort of move into the next couple weeks of our school year. And, I'm not going to add anything except to say, friends, check out the show notes, because I'm going to be putting some links in the show notes. You've referenced Julie Stivers. Julie Stivers has been on the show. Let's talk about the True Book book fair. I've interviewed her about this, and let's definitely take a look at the show notes, and then recognize the ability that we have to infuse our students' day with joy, to support our teachers, and in new and inventive and unexpected ways. And as somebody who took every single piece of holiday candy that I did not need or want in my house, and I put it on the counter next to the coffee pot and the tea and all that I set out for my teachers, you could not believe the migration pattern of people coming through my workroom. And I say my because I'm responsible for what happens in it. But I have people coming in there. They're like, I heard you had candy. I'm like, I always have candy in here. But now I have like the holiday stuff. And you know what? It's something as little as I needed to take a break. It's a reset. And they're like, oh, you have an ice maker? Yes, I do have an ice maker. And you know what? All of a sudden we're connecting and we're talking about the things that they did with their families and you know what they're doing. And then they visit the dog because I have a therapy dog. And then everybody leaves just a little bit happier. And you really, whatever we can do to be that, how we can help people reset, how we can help our students stop, spiraling. And, they see that and see the value we have. And you and I know this is not why I went to library school. But you know what? I don't care because I solve problems in my space on an hourly, minute-by-minute basis. And you know what? That's a win. A win is a win is a win. And so...
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like they don't always teach you the fun in library school. Right. I would say, okay, one little thing you can do for yourself, librarians, if you have not done it, here's a great way to add some fun. Name your book cards. Name your book cards. Don't even get kids involved the first time. Just name them, right? It's so much more fun for me to go get Cardi B than it is to get the blue card. So go for it. Just go name your cards. If you haven't done it, name your cards.
I know I've seen this on Facebook, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, people do it all the time.
Absolutely.
But like name your cards. Put googly eyes on your scanner, right? Like just simple, silly things. And it's okay, right? Like we don't need to be these serious people.
No. Absolutely. Kannan Cangro, you are phenomenal. Please give us an idea of where we can find you on social media. You're supplying us with some fantastic resources, but I did put links in the show notes to your preferred social media. I think we have both. You are on Blue Sky and Instagram. Mm-hmm. Yes, and friends.
Yes,
it's in the
I
show
am on
notes.
Blue Sky and Instagram. I did not deactivate my Twitter. I don't check it very often, but I am on Blue Sky and Instagram.
Excellent.
I don't check my Facebook, but if you ever see me post in those Facebook librarian groups, that is me. So whenever I'm scrolling through those.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic, Nick, we're in January right now, and so you don't have nearly the winter that we do have in other parts of the country.
Pretty cold, though.
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah. So but I find that this is a wonderful time to start becoming rather introspective, looking, we're nesting, we're doing a lot of things that we can sort of invest on our space because we're not going outside a great deal. Absolutely not. No. Listen, Kannan, thank you so much, and I hope you have a fantastic 2026, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
For sure, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Friends, if you found this episode helpful, please share it out with your team, your PLN, and on social media. Be sure to follow on your favorite podcatcher so you'll never miss an episode. And if you really like listening today, consider leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews help others find us. If you are curious to know how often your state or country has been featured on the podcast, then simply click on the link which can be found in our show notes of every episode. Search by title, author, state, and country, and do a Command F search. I hope this is the year that you consider being a guest on the show. Please visit the FAQs and you'll find out just how easy it is. We all have something to share. Make 2026 your time to shine. Don't forget to check out TinyCat, powered by Library Thing. TinyCat has served thousands of libraries over the past 10 years. To double the length of your free trial, sign up at librarycat.org and say that you heard about TinyCat from the School Librarians United podcast. See the link in today's show notes. The topic of our next episode is Inquiry with the Tinies and my conversation with Valerie Jopek. I hope you will tune in.